Hi everyone, my name is Anita Sharma and I welcome you all on INKPOTHUB Media. When I was doing my PhD, I have always heard that once a Fulbrighter is always a Fulbrighter. Listening to this statement, I also wanted to be a Fulbright scholar, but I failed twice. Pre-doc, postdoc, both. My applications could not make it through the final list. So I have a very special affinity towards those who are Fulbright Fellows. Yes, you got me right. Our today's guest is Dr. Gopalakrishnan Narayanamurthy, who has been a Fulbright-Nehru Fellow at Carlson School of Management, University of Minnesota. He is a PhD from IIM Kozhikode in operations area, and immediately after his PhD, he went to pursue his postdoctoral research fellowship at the University of St.Gallen, Switzerland. He is currently associated as a senior faculty member at the University of Liverpool, UK. In this interaction, we are going to talk about his pre-doc experience, post-doc experience, his strategies and approaches to write so many research papers, and his collaboration strategies. So, hi Gopal, thank you so much for accepting my request for this interaction.
Hi, Anita. So nice to connect with you after a few years, and so nice to see you here.
And I have read a lot about you. You are a great researcher, and your work is tremendously good. Please let me know, is it planned? The research career is planned or it happened accidentally?
It kind of makes me to reflect back now, isn't it? Which is something I've not done for a while. To answer the question, if it was planned, I mean, it's retrospectively when I look and connect the dots, things look much more like it happened for a reason, right? So when you look back at it, so I did my undergrad, and then post it. I had a couple of offers from different firms, and also, but I was more into kind of trying to take a pathway into research, but more into engineering side of it. And then I just came across an advertisement for this FPM Fellow Program in Management, and that's specifically for IIM Kozhikode. So I didn't even know what the program was about till then. And the only thing I checked was I just went into that advertisement and looked at what is this program about and what are they focusing on. And I did see quantitative methods and operations management, which was more closer to statistics and mathematics to some extent. And then I also saw information technology. Those were the only two things that I could relate as an engineer when I was coming back. I mean, with the training that I was coming. And honestly speaking, I just submitted my application for the fellow program in management at IIMK, and that's the only application I made for an FPM. The only application I made in the management category was for FPM at IIMK, and I forgot. Like after I applied, I completely forgot, and then all of a sudden I get an email instruction kind of stating that you're being shortlisted for an interview. So, and then when I looked at it, then I was like, okay, what application did I send for this? Like, what was it that I submitted? Okay. Then I got into the details, and then so then I decided, let me go for an interview first, right? Okay. So, and Kozhikode basically killed it. Like when I was there for the interview, I was in the early morning. I took a train from Chennai, and then I went there. And early morning when I was reaching there, and it was like, I mean, the campus was amazing. Like, I mean, anyone who was visiting there for the first time would fall for it. I was just climbing the campus in the early morning with just a suitcase and a backpack, and I was just climbing the entire hill, and I loved the campus. And then I felt like, okay, if I get it here, all my other options are not going to be considered. Okay, so and then I gave the interview, and it was not that straightforward as an interview because it was more of testing me whether I'll be able to pull it off and trying to understand, because I was a fresher, isn't it? So I didn't have any experience in the industry, at least formal experience in the industry. When I was coming out, I felt like I'm not going to make it. They're not going to take me. I was even remembering the conversation that why was I called for the interview, even when they knew upfront that I'm not up for it, right? So then I came back and I completely kind of overlooked it and went on for other options that they had, and then I received this offer letter informing that I've been considered for like a position for the fellow program in management in quantitative methods and all. Mm-hmm. And so that's the turning point, actually, honestly speaking. And so if you ask me whether it was planned at the starting or at the switching point of it, completely, I wouldn't say that at all. And it just happened, and I think and then it whatever is being happening now has been after that. What started from there. Mm-hmm. And luckily my parents and family were very supportive. I got onto it, and I think after that it's been just traveling, going through the journey, and yeah, I think I've been enjoying it.
You did your FPM from Kozhikode, one of the best beautiful campuses in India. Tell me more about your pre-doc Fulbright experience. Why did you
Okay,
go? Why did you opt for it in the first place? Is it
so
because
I
of
think
your seniors? Are they inspired and influenced?
Serious, yeah, that is very true. So when I joined there, honestly speaking, I was not really clear what this program is going to demand from me. As I mentioned, that's when I got introduced to it, and then I joined the program, and that's when I came to know that there are 2 years of coursework, and you are basically going to do so much of effort to pull that off before you can get onto the research career. So it was really demanding in the first years, and I was never thinking that it would be this demanding before I took up this option, right? But luckily things went well, and I mean, support offered by the staff, like faculty there, and also the seniors. So seniors were the people to whom we go to understand, okay, what happens when you're in the first trimester. What are the things that we should be aware of? What are the mistakes that we should do? What are the smart ways to do certain things? And so at that time you also get introduced to what different seniors at their years are doing now, right? So for example, some of them would be giving their proposals, some of them would be giving their like seminars of a thing, and then also some of them would be defending with an external there, but just giving their presentation. So you get a chance to look at the entire, I would say, a value chain of that program, right? Where you would see the proposal part, you would also see people finishing it. So you kind of get what people have
What they
traveled
are
across,
doing?
right? So, and you see some of them have applied for Fulbright, some of them have applied for some grants and fellowships, some of them have already some publications. So you kind of get an overview at that point in time. So
You
they
know
were
what? This is
sure.
pretty unique about IIM Kozhikode that most of the fellow students are going abroad and doing their fellowships with
Oh,
either Commonwealth. They might have applied for Commonwealth, Fulbright, or any other scholarship. And I
Shastri
actually learned,
Indo-Canadian
yeah, I
Fellowship. Yeah.
actually learned from one of the seniors of IIM Kozhikode itself.
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. We had two people within our FPM program from IMK who had gone for Fulbright before I applied.
Huh,
So, and then so I kind of knew that there is this track record that people are
huh,
applying, and then when they convert, and then I started looking at what Fulbright was. What was it like? What was the application about? And then I was in towards my completion of my second year when I was finishing all my courseworks and kind of finalizing my pre-thesis. There's this something called pre-thesis which you do before you get onto your proposal. So then that's when I applied for the Fulbright, and I just submitted. I think the only thing I did was I just did everything that it asked for, and
hmm,
then I had, because based on my second year of coursework and course of independent study, I had some research going on, and I had some kind of clarity on the domain that I wanted to work on. Like for example, I came from biomedical engineering, so I had interaction with healthcare and healthcare institutions. So I wanted to continue to do my work in healthcare. And thanks to my advisor, Professor Anand, who
hmm,
supported me, also appreciated that that's where you come from. So continue to be on the healthcare, but let's see what is that we can bring from the operations management and supply chain domain to
hmm,
study in that context. And he was super supportive, and he offered the system for me to system that helped me to implement the things that I aimed for. And also my Fulbright mentor, Professor Rachna, she has been also very supportive, because whenever there was like got invitation letter from her beforehand, which conveyed that she was very supportive also, because she doesn't have to do it, right? And because if I don't make it, there's nothing for her in return. So because the success conversion rates are really less, and I got that invitation letter, and finally things went well. I went for the interview, it got converted.
Gopal, I have a failed experience of Fulbright. I applied twice. I did not convert it.
I still don't know why they selected me. Honestly, it's. I think it just clicks if it has to, right? So there's. I
Uh,
mean, if we fall on the other side, also we would have still continued what we are doing, and like you are doing great stuff now already. So I think it just happened, and it worked out well. I think I went in my fourth year, which is not very common for
uh,
people to do. Most of them go for Fulbright towards their, at least from IIMs who have go towards their end of their PhD period. But I've kind of left when I was in my fourth year. The holistic experience was totally different, and the kind of mentoring and support. And I think I have to thank here both my advisor from IMK and also my advisor from from my Fulbright advisor if I wanted to do it, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without this.
Without them. Okay. So
And I think
your
that
FPM
continues
is
still.
over. Okay. So your
Yeah.
FPM got over, and then immediately you went for your postdoc.
That's true. Yeah. So
University
I
of.
think by the time I was finishing my coursework and then also finalizing my proposal, applying for Fulbright, and then going for Fulbright and then coming back. So I got a hang of what it was, like what kind of program this is, what is the expectation, what's the job market about, and how does it vary across countries. So all that, we kind of get an exposure by observing things happening around. And then, so I came back, I kind of got my final things to be completed for my dissertation. Got it done. Had a couple of papers by then. Also started working with a few other collaborators on topics outside my thesis also. And this postdoc thing worked out along the lines of one of the topics that I was working with Professor Roger. And Roger has again been an eye opener on several things, and he gave insights and shared his experiences, which kind of make you think on different things and explore and investigate, right? So whether you want to do this or not, whether
because this is pretty interesting,
okay.
like how.
So I can say that, like, one thing that Roger says is the worst thing that can happen to you is you get a job.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So which means that, I mean, individuals can interpret it differently, but one thing that I interpreted out of it is like you get settled when you have a job, isn't it? So you kind of do things that is needed for that job, and then you kind of go in that pathway for an entire period of time. But if you don't have one, you probably try to explore many more things, which means you can be opened up for several other situations, and it's kind of eye opener for someone who wants to be really focused. I wanted to be really onto this. Okay, I finish this, and then I go for this as a job, things like that. So once he mentioned it, when you see of experiences of people, that also makes sense to. I'm sure Roger didn't plan it in an explicit way to transfer these insights, but you just learn from the conversations that we have with them.
So if I ask you, you are a teacher, you are a reviewer, you have written papers for journals, you have written cases as well. So which role is very close to your heart? And if you can share the reason as well. So what motivates you? What excites you? Which role is very closer to your heart?
Okay, so I think the hybrid is what is exciting more, right? If I have to do only one of them, I would probably get bored sooner. The way that you could transition from one to the other, and that's the beauty of our profession itself, isn't it? Like you could transition between topics. You could also transition between, like, writing a case study from a research collaboration that you have with a firm, and then writing teaching the experience that you had in the research projects that you had with the firm in your classroom and trying to convey that insight. So it's highly linked, and the most exciting thing is that you could jump from one to the other. I continue to do writing just the research papers. I think it's a point in time I would also want to write a teaching case study, because I think that's fine, but I would want to come here because they have inputs and outputs to each other. Like when you're writing a teaching case, you get some questions that can be investigated for a research project, and you also get a collaboration with a firm when you're writing a case study on them. So it's always, like, to me, it's difficult to see it kind of linear and sequential or things. It's very kind of a systemic thing. If one impacts the other very indirectly and also sometimes directly, and that's how the output comes out. So the first part of your question, is there anything that excites me more? I think that what excites me is that you can switch between those options, and so that is what is more exciting. So if there is something that you're stuck with, for example, in a research paper, then you put that on a hold and go back to the teaching case. And then when you come back, the perspective completely changes. And then you have ways out from that stucking, right? So also writing, reviewing for people.
Okay, so I think there is a mindset wherein we can switch off and switch on when we want, and we can keep hold on certain projects and restart those projects with a fresh look and perspective. That's the beauty of the profession which we are in. Yes, definitely.
Exactly. I think same comes for also reviewing, isn't it? Like when you review an article, it's not like you're trying to understand what the authors have done there. You're also trying to see it automatically raises some questions in your mind, and also links to your projects that you're currently working on. Seeing if there's anything that you could have done better, or is there any learning from this. So it's all highly convoluted, I would say. Like there are a lot of kind of give and take within these 3 or 4 different roles that we take.
Mm.
And I think with respect to the topics, as I mentioned before, I landed up in FPM with no knowledge of what it was, isn't it? So I chose QMYM, no knowledge of what it is actually, right? And then I did a dissertation on operational excellence in healthcare and things like that. But I've been always fascinated about the diverse topics that we could work on. And it's, if there is an interest that comes from a research question or a question that is experienced in the field, I definitely want to get into the details of it and investigate it. And that's how it has been with respect to the diversity, and the collaborations have also been of that kind. So I've been collaborating with people from marketing, I've been collaborating with people from policy, and also a lot from practice.
So that's brings my next question. So you are collaborating with many people, you have multiple co-authors. What is that attribute or virtue you consider very important to see and continue this collaboration for a longer period of time?
Okay, that's interesting. And so it also, like, I think there is a time component associated with this, right? So when you start off, like when you're doing a PhD, and then immediately as an early career researcher, when immediately after your PhD, you tend to be working on very less number of projects, because like some of them would be your PhD related work, and some of them slightly out of it, but still very less number of projects at that time, right? And then, but you would get a lot more ideas, because when you're reading other papers, literatures, attending conferences, talking to people, attending presentations. But you can't do that because you want to focus and get those things completed first, isn't it? Because there is a timeline associated with your PhD and the funding associated with it. So you have to be focused on those. But having said that, I think it once you're after that stage, then it opens up for you. Like you have more options and more choices that you could make for yourself. And I think for me, what happened was, when I went for my postdoc, I was an India competence center, right? So that was nothing directly related to operations or supply chain, but it was more related to the context of India. So that's where the questions that we were asking was not definitely related to operations or supply chain. So then I had to attend and get into the topics of, let's say, bottom of the pyramid that we are looking at, base of the economic pyramid, and those kind of questions. And then accordingly collaborate with people who are working on those lines. And that's where I think you become a little more diversified in your topics, and also with your collaborations. But having said that, I think the question of the attribute that makes it as a success, right? From failures, also from past failures and some successes that I've had, I think I continue to work with same set of people. If you really look at it, the some of them are always going to be there, and we have projects going with them. And in that process, when we are working on a project, if something new comes up and we think like there is an expert who could potentially be supportive or contributing to this project, and that's where we reach out, and then we see if that works out, right? So and then also what happens other way around. Also, you also collaborate with your peers within your alma mater. For example, I have projects going on with my juniors, and I wouldn't say juniors, but with people who joined later, and there are research projects that we're currently working on, and so that also continues. So it kind of gives there's a give and take there. So first thing in most of the projects that I've been working on is that I know the individual before. It's very difficult to handle it if we really don't know with whom we are working. So that's a
very important question, because because it is often asked to me that do we need to work with a specific set of people, or should we diversify in our portfolio, even working with different people? So that, because you are in the latter part, so I thought I should ask this question to you, because you have worked with many people. So what that one key attribute we should look forward to, so that it can be a guiding line to others. Okay, look for these type of attributes, and that would help you sustain your relationships with different type of people. So that's why I asked you this question.
Yeah.
So Gopal, you are now currently outside of India. And there are a lot of things changing in Indian situations as well. So could you please, from a perspective of person who is sitting outside of India, how do you perceive and foresee Indian research on a global platform? What's the perspective in general?
Okay, so I think I'm still like learning things, and I'm in a very early on stage to be, based on my experience so far, isn't it? So, but I guess I would put it this way: the way it was from when I was starting my PhD and the way it is now, it is really catching up, and it's basically comparable across. And there are a lot, as you mentioned rightly before, a lot of people from INK who are working in several international or foreign universities outside India, isn't it? So which itself means that they are, they are basically having their performance output is competing with the other applications those institutions would receive from other countries, isn't it? So which means that we are achieving or satisfying the requirements of international institutions. And I think there's definitely a long way to go in terms of the ecosystem that the institutions offer to students to be able to achieve them and things like that. But I think there is definitely, the gap is shrinking to a great extent, and more and more things I hope will happen in the coming years with the way, like, for example, INKPOTHUB is doing. You're bringing in a lot of resources for people to learn and probably start your journey much early on, isn't it? Like, rather than waiting or committing some mistakes and then fixing it and then starting.
Mm-hmm.
So listening to such sharing of experiences, connecting with with people who have already graduated from your institutions, and those are definitely helping, like trying to share. I mean, when you see it from your like people who have graduated already, and then you learn from their experience of being in the market, of applying to different places, then you also learn, like, what should I be ready with by the time I go to the market at that stage, right? So there is a lot of that kind of information sharing going on, and yeah, so in that way you understand how job market for North American institutions are, and how job market in UK is, how job market in Australia is. So you kind of get an understanding of all that, and accordingly you see what are the things that I should do by the time I'm going to be in the job market, depending upon what interests you more, where do you want to work and things.
Okay, so this brings my another question. When do you want to come back to India?
No, I mean, I'm doing everything that I'm doing if I would have been in India. Like, for example, majority of my projects are Indian focused. So, like, my research questions are coming from that context primarily, and then my data is coming from there most of the times. And so I think the work that I'm doing wouldn't change much even if I come back. So it will continue to be the same with respect to the questions and the context that I'm working in. And I mean, the when question is. I mean, I don't think we can plan it. Or I'm not a person who plans, as you know before. Like, things just happen to me, and I just take it on and see move on, and then see what the best that you can do with that particular situation, rather than saying, okay, this is what I should do to do the best out of the situation. But once the situation happens, then you see, okay, what is that you can do to get best out of it. So I guess it'll just happen, and I myself wouldn't know that this is what my plan is. It will just happen, and then I'll know that, okay, this happened, and I'm here now. So I think that's how it will be, but I have no concrete single answer for that in terms of the year or anything. But satisfying thing is I'm continuing to do what I would do even if I'm in India. So
yeah, that's very interesting to know, and I'm really happy to learn that you are happy whatever you are doing. Whenever you come back to India, I think you will keep on doing it. So that's the beauty of the profession, and that's the beauty of the path we have chosen. Thank you so much, Gopal, and thank you for doing whatever you are doing. Stay blessed, stay happy, and stay safe.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.